Ready? The meeting will come to order. Welcome to our committee of the whole meeting for the month of November. It is great to see everyone present today, and we appreciate you for being here. Our first matter of business is the approval of the consent calendar. Are there any corrections to the minutes posted for our committee of the whole session on October the 10th, 2023?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
If we have a motion to approve by Ms. Linda Leventis Wells, and we have a second from Ms. Caldwell. It is moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our second item of business is appearance of visitors. We have 10 speakers today. At this time, I would like to ask our Vice Chair, Ms. Debbie Bush, to read our guidelines for public comment.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chairman. As each speaker's name is called, he or she should proceed to the podium at the end of the board's dais, where there is a microphone and a light system. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak to the board. The light system will be green for the first 2 minutes and will turn yellow when 1 minute remains on the speaker's allotted time. In keeping with Board Policy KCA, abusive language or personal attacks aimed at students or staff members will not be permitted. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to the comments. The superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bush. Our first speaker is Eric Bowers.
Good morning. My name's Eric Bowers. I currently have 2 children at Greenville Middle enrolled in the French Immersion Program, both of whom spent their elementary years at Blythe. I'm going to comment on the materials provided for today's meeting, the next agenda item. The data provided to support decision-making about the French Immersion Program's existence is woefully inadequate. The administration tries to compare the French and Spanish enrollment numbers in data table form. Based on this data table, it has been put forward that the French attrition is too high and the overall number is too small and inefficient. Doing the math on the limited data set provided, you will find that the attrition rate for Spanish language is higher than for French, and that the students per faculty member ratio is 18 for French versus 20 for Spanish. Hardly a statistical basis for decision making. Unfortunately, it's not even the right data set for this sort of math, but it's what you have in front of you today. As it relates to efficiency, there is no data provided to evaluate efficiency in any meaningful way in this deck. The title at the beginning of the presentation and the administration's recommendation is to transition the French program. However, the proposed motion is to eliminate the program with zero accountability for what is expected going forward. The rest of the materials provided do not merit discussion and can be summarized as complaining that sometimes we face challenges, to borrow the most frequently used word in the presentation. A series of excuses should not be confused with thought, analysis, or leadership. More importantly, I'm alarmed and assume as a board member you will be alarmed by what is not part of the presentation. What are the outcomes for the French Immersion Program? Is the program fundamentally succeeding or failing? Are students moving on to achieve at the middle and high school levels? Are they matriculating to college at the same or better rates than other cohorts? Are we about to kill off an elementary program that produces great outcomes? Don't know. Anecdotally, you will hear many resounding yeses to this question. As a board, I would expect you to expect the administration to answer such a fundamental question prior to taking a vote. The presentation lacks vision or aspiration to excel. It goes out of its way to caveat what might or might not be possible and only commits not to do what is challenging. Let me finish by saying that we should hold ourselves to a higher standard than is being exhibited. We aspire to have outstanding programs in our public schools. Our resources and attention should not stop at satisfying the least common denominator, but rather embrace the programs that distinguish our district from others in a positive way. And when confronted with a challenging situation, we should demand that we evaluate the situation holistically, analytically, and with a focus on remaining a great school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Our next speaker is Mary Borey.
Oh, it's green. Hi, good morning. My name is Mary Carol Bourret. I am one of the parents at Blythe. My daughter is in the K-5 program. She joined just this past year. We've been really thrilled with the opportunity to have Blythe as a program because there's not any other French program that is available for people who are of a certain economic level in Greenville. So we were really thrilled that we got to be in Blythe. When we heard that it was closing, and that is being phased out, I was immediately questioning why is Blythe having these issues and what can be done. I'm from Louisiana, and in Louisiana there is a lot of immersion programs. There's a lot of schools that support language immersion. I went to the website, the State Department of Education's website, and there is a plethora. When I talk about the volume of documentation, there's 151 PDFs replete with rubrics, charts, explanations, how you can assess student achievements, how to grade, and how to determine if a school is being successful as a language immersion program. Louisiana has put in the time and the effort, and it's just an example, I'm sure other states are doing that also. South Carolina is not doing that. South Carolina has not put the framework into place that is necessary to support language immersion programs. Blythe is struggling because at the umbrella level, at the very top level of our state, there is not the framework and structure needed to support these language immersion programs. Louisiana offers recruitment help by the state. They offer programs that, that assist and train all of the administrations for any school that wants to apply to be an immersion program. They have just top-down support and legislative infrastructure that helps these programs thrive. And if we want to, in South Carolina, provide language immersion programs, then South Carolina needs at the state level to also work at implementing those changes. And so where do we start? I don't know where to start. I'm just a parent here that wants language immersion for my daughter. I'm hoping that maybe with y'all's help, we could start tackling the issues that are at a very high level that we don't know how to change by ourselves. Blythe needs your support. We need to work all together to really address how to rearrange this problem, because it's going to continue to affect Spanish immersion, any other immersion that's suggested or desired by our community is going to continue to have the same problem, because it's systemic and it's a reflection that languages are not valued at the state level. If we want to be a part of what's happening around the world, if we want to be able to be diplomats and be able to involve ourselves at high levels, then South Carolina has to make that a priority. It's not easy, but nothing that is great is done easily. And so we have to work together to make something great.
Thank you, Ms. Bourret. Our next speaker is Claudine Urquhart.
You're ready.
Okay, my name is Claudine Urquhart. I've been in Greenville for about 40 years. I'm the grandmother of 2 students at Blythe in 3rd and 4th grade. I was a teacher, math teacher at the French Michelin School for 30 years. So I was very excited to have my granddaughters be able to start the program at Blythe. They had learned and heard a little bit of French at home visiting, but definitely couldn't speak. So I was kind of excited to see them do, pretty much half of their school day in French. Yet after a few years, I'm kind of a little disappointed because I was expecting language a lot more than anything. I think language is very important, and I think the main purpose, I would imagine, of an immersion program is to learn to communicate. And communicate means be able to speak, read, write would be very secondary. And I think that's, to me, that's the main purpose. So I love the idea of the French program because we need to be able to widen our, space and be able to live in the world and learning about different cultures, learning how it's so important for people now. So I really enjoy the French program. I think there may be similar, difficulties with the Spanish program for the kids who are not speaking Spanish when they start. But I think it's very important to keep on that French program, but I would love a lot more time spent at language just to improve the results. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Jercourt. Our next speaker is Katie Dial. You can go ahead.
My name is Katie Dial. I'm here to speak with you today about the lack of clear communication from the Blythe administration in the district in the aftermath of the 4th and 5th grade French teacher resignation. The parents received one email on September 25th notifying us about the resignation and advising us that our children were being placed temporarily into other classes. You, the board, were told via a memo that the students were reassigned based on parent preference, but that is not true. No parent was asked what class their child should be placed in. Instead, the children of assumed Hispanic heritage were put in Spanish immersion without parent consent. Many of these students are now struggling in Spanish immersion because they haven't read, written, or used Spanish in the academic setting prior to now. The next communication came on October 16th. Despite it being 3.5 weeks later, this meeting offered us no concrete plans for our children in regards to their current education. Instead, we were simply told about the proposed phasing out of the French immersion program. We were told many times during this meeting that we would be sent a Google form for questions, comments, and ideas for this program. This form was never sent. I personally have one email from the principal from October 20th that was actually just responded to this morning, but still didn't address any answers to questions. This terrible communication is affecting the morale of the staff and school community as a whole, especially affecting teacher retention and parent trust. This is unacceptable. You have been told of staffing shortages and the difficulty finding teachers. However, the program is currently fully staffed for K-5 through 3rd grade. Are we really going to give up on a unique and beneficial program because they can't find one teacher immediately? You have been told that everything has been done to find a teacher, but the first social media post was made 3 days ago, after 7 weeks of the prior teacher resigning. The school has yet to post the job to their social media. You have been told that France has closed their FISA program for the year, but we haven't had a teacher from France in the past 10 years. Please do not kill this currently thriving program because you have been poorly communicated to as well. We as parents, along with almost 700 people on our petition, can see the long-term benefits and vision for the French immersion program and ask that you see this too for our children. We need leaders at Blythe and in the district that want to work for our children's best interest, for their educational futures as world citizens and learners. We need leaders that will have open communication and will push through the difficult barriers, the extra paperwork, the extra phone calls and emails. Additionally, we have learned that Blythe teachers have been told that they should be teaching math and science and English first and then in their target language second. This goes against how language immersion education functions and thrives and has been done so for 28 years at the existence of Blythe.
Thank you, Ms. Dial. Our next speaker is Emily Pitts.
Hi, my name is Emily Pitts, and I'm a current French immersion parent of 3 children. I would like to talk about the potential candidates we have or had for immersion teachers. In a few minutes, you will hear that teachers with the correct qualifications are just too hard to find. This is the main argument for cutting the immersion program. That is true. This is a special teacher we are looking for. However, it is not impossible to find them, and I'd like to show you a few recent examples. We currently have a 3rd grade French immersion teacher who is hired with only a K-12 French certification by a previous administration. She was given a specific length of time to complete extra coursework and take the praxis in order to become elementary certified, which she did. Other Spanish immersion teachers have also been hired and followed this same path. In fact, we currently have a Spanish immersion teacher who is finishing up her practicum in order to receive her degree in December. 7 weeks ago, when parents first learned of the proposal to eliminate French immersion because of one teacher vacancy, we did some digging, and what we found was shocking. 2 current GCS employees with the exact certification with which our current 3rd grade teacher was hired reached out to our principal last year very interested in the job. The first, a native Frenchman, was immediately told he didn't qualify. The second received a response that spent more time questioning her loyalty to her current principal and less time trying to court her for the position. After that email exchange, she had reservations about working under such leadership and decided not to pursue the job further. Another native French speaker, also with his K-12 certification, was turned away before being granted an interview. He now teaches at the International School of Greenville. So that is 3 candidates who were not even interviewed, even though they had the same qualifications, the certification barrier thrown up, when in reality, we have evidence that this is not and should not be treated as an insurmountable obstacle. To sum up, we are not asking to bring completely uncertified people into the classroom or expecting gigantic waivers or exceptions. In just a few weeks, we have uncovered multiple qualified teachers asking to come to Blythe. Therefore, my question to you is, do you still believe there are no teachers available to continue this program?
Thank you, Ms. Pitts. Our next speaker is Janine Johnson.
Good morning. My name is Jean Johnson. I am not only a parent with children in French immersion, but also a teacher at Blythe Academy. I'm a 3rd grade teacher. I teach science and math in French. Today, I stand before you both as a concerned parent and also an advocate for the preservation of our program. Growing up as an American citizen in Geneva, Switzerland, I personally experienced the transformative power of language immersion. It's not just about learning a language, it's also about immersing yourself in culture, broadening your perspectives, gaining a unique set of skills that extend far beyond linguistic proficiency. This program is not just an educational endeavor. It's really an investment in the children in the future, right, for the future. When I learned about the opportunity to teach at Blythe Academy in 2005, I was drawn to the school's commitment to partial immersion. Witnessing students explaining math concepts and illustrating life cycles in French was awe-inspiring. Partial immersion, as I experienced it, was more than just a teaching method. It was a gateway to a richer and more interconnected education. At the time, I did face the challenge of not being certified in elementary education, but with the support of the administrative team at Blythe Academy, I was granted a temporary teaching certificate. Within a year, I did have to take the praxis and necessary coursework, and thankfully I was able to do so. This experience allowed me to fully embrace the benefits of language immersion education. Today, I appeal to you on behalf of our dedicated teachers who, like me in 2005, are certified in French, kindergarten through 12th grade, but lack certification in elementary education. I urge you to please reconsider granting the same opportunity that you gave to me in 2005, allowing them to take the additional coursework needed to ensure the continuation of the program. This simple step has been done for me and so many others, and it will be open. Help us open doors for more qualified, committed educators. I also implore you to please reconsider the proposed shift from a French immersion program to a French studies program. The magic that happens in our classrooms every day is tangible. I've witnessed students grappling with challenging math concepts only to grasp them through the innovative use of manipulatives and the introduction of a different language. The transformation is remarkable. And please, I also implore implore you, if you could please come and stop by Blythe in the next 2 weeks before you vote on the removal of French immersion. We all welcome you into our classrooms at any time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Our next speaker is Michelle Jaramillo.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle. I have currently 2 children in the Spanish immersion program. You're probably thinking, what's a Spanish parent doing up here worried about the French program? Well, very concerning. I just found out about these issues about 2 days ago. A parent had reached out. I'm here to basically represent Blythe Academy of Languages, Pearl. If you take away the French program, what would our school be named? You know, what's the fundamental? It's Blythe Academy of Languages. So it's concerning. It's concerning also that the current administration has been able to disregard this French program so easily. What's to say that that won't happen to the Spanish program? You know, if they can't find a suitable replacement, they didn't do their due diligence to find another replacement so easily, just to let it go. What's to say that won't happen to the Spanish program? It's very concerning for me. It's concerning that there was no real post made or anything active to seek out another teacher. Our administration seems to be lacking in that sense. Allowing that change will also give our administration the precedence to let it go, just like I said, let go of the French program. Is that going to happen to the Spanish program? Reason being, it's concerning to send my children to a school where their education is just, you know, the Spanish program seems to be, oh, okay, let's just let it go. It just causes me concern, and it makes me pause and think about sending my children to the Blythe Academy. If it's so easily thrown away, will that happen to the Spanish program? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jaramillo. Our next speaker is Carmen Shank.
Good morning. My son used to go to Blythe. He's in 6th grade now. And the reason, I'm sorry, I get emotional because I'm from Mexico originally. And my son speaks already English and Spanish. And for me to find Blythe was amazing. You know, he will finish with 3 languages, which is what for kids is like power. It's a tool. Greenville, it's a great community that is growing too fast, and we need kids to be equipped with that knowledge. There's 2 years in Blythe. The last 2 years, they were awful. The teacher that they had used to call them stupid, and like, I don't care, that's not my problem, things like that. They were coming to the house crying almost every day. Parents, we went and complained, and nothing was done. We just, at the end, we used to say, just hang in there 2 more months, 1 more month. And it's not that they didn't want to learn French. It's not that they didn't want to go to Greenville Middle. They just kill it. They kill their desire because they see French like a bad thing. And it's not. I mean, I didn't mind driving 50 minutes in the morning and 50 minutes in the afternoon. And I was so disappointed, because they killed that from our children, I'm sorry. The world is changing so fast that we need to equip our kids to be able to compete not with other counties, but with other states and with other countries. We have companies here like Michelin, Plastic Omnium, that they bring people from all overseas, because they need people that speak French or Spanish or other languages. Why not prepare our kids so when they finish school, they have an opportunity here? Just gonna finish saying that my father-in-law used to say, the world is in the hands of the best informed. So let's give that to our kids. Let's make them extraordinary, not regular kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shank. Our next speaker is Elena Corbett.
Bonjour, my name is Alana Corbett. I'm a current IB diploma student at Southside High School. I love the Blythe French program. I went through it. It's brought me to where I am today. Sorry. I plan on majoring in French in college, and pursuing it as a career at Blythe has really been that stepping stone for me to be able to do that. So as people have said before, one of the issues is that there's not enough kids, but personally myself, thank you. I like a smaller class. It's given me the opportunity to learn better and improve my French language. It's a closer community, you make better friends. I started at a different elementary school and kindergarten, and I needed to challenge myself, and we found Blythe, and it was amazing because I've always loved the French program. I've always loved the French language, and I've always loved it through a show, TV, and books, and it really gave me that opportunity to learn and grow my love for that language. And so without that, my love, I mean, I probably wouldn't enjoy French as much as I do now, and I probably would have just taken Spanish, and I probably wouldn't have gone to a higher level of Spanish because I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much as I enjoy French. Please keep the French program because it really impacted my life, and I know it's impacted others' lives. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Corbett. Our final speaker is Michelle Carpenter.
Hi, my name is Michelle Carpenter, and I'm a Blythe French parent. I'm here to talk today about the French program as a whole and the effect of COVID on our school. The COVID shutdown and following restart was a hard time for all of us. We all rode the struggle bus together. Children, parents, teachers, and administrators alike all struggled during that uncertain and difficult time. Even now, nationwide, test scores are still down from pre-COVID statistics. Language immersion was impacted more than most because it has to occur in person. You cannot do it online. When the restart began, we all promised to give each other grace as we worked together, helping each other to be successful after such a trying time. We agreed that those especially affected by the upheaval, like our school children, would be given every opportunity and help they needed. Our French program is still showing signs of these COVID years, and we as parents once again ask the school and county administration to give us grace as we rebuild. The French immersion program is small, but it is mighty. In my 12 years as a Blythe parent, I have seen firsthand the magic that Jean Johnson talked about. The intimate class sizes and single class per grade provides a space for camaraderie that builds between kids who spend over 6 years in the same classroom together. This is the part that makes it truly exceptional and amazingly successful. Learning to speak a second language requires hard work, more than just a little bit of vulnerability. These kids get to grow up together learning in French, often having the same teacher 2 years in a row. This continuity of teaching and learning grows them into a family of world-class learners. It makes them want to come back every year, even though it is hard work. This aspect of the French immersion program that has been identified as its weakness is actually its greatest strength and a huge selling point for magnet parents. There are currently 3 French immersion classrooms at Blythe, housing 41, 37, and 27 children respectively, with 2 grades sharing the same classroom, teacher, and resources. Those numbers are above the district average for class size. 78 of those children are taught by 1 full-time and 2 part-time teachers, and we now hear that there is a teacher candidate who has started the hiring process for the position as the 4th and 5th grade French immersion teacher. If filled, this will be fully staffed and highly efficient group of educators working with an elite group of kids who will graduate from the 5th grade speaking better French than most of us in this room, myself included. The French immersion program at Blythe, both historically and currently, has a higher retention rate at 58% and better language test scores than the Spanish immersion program. They represent a diverse cross-section of the Greenville County students who are drawn to a public school to learn French. This small and effective program produces French speakers who leave Blythe to become South Carolina junior scholars, 4 in the last 8th grade class, AP and French National Honor Society members, valedictorians, and class presidents. This is a vibrant and successful program that has impacted so many lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Our third item of business is instruction. Ms. Linda Levinas Wells will serve as the chair of instruction. Ms. Levinas Wells, I'll turn this section over to you.
Okay, sorry, my computer is sleeping. So, okay, got it. Thank you, Dr. Stiles. At this time, we will 3.01, revision of Blythe Academy Magnet Program. Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Ms. Levinas Wells. On behalf of the administration, Ms. Bird, who's the assistant superintendent responsible for school leadership for the group of schools that includes Blythe, and Mr. Sokol, the principal at Blythe, will present information regarding revision to the Blythe Magnet program. Let me just offer a few comments at the outset. We've heard a lot of commentary this morning. You heard some the other night at the board meeting. We wish that we were not in the position of having to recommend to you what we are recommending. Our concern lies in not the number of students primarily that are enrolled in this program, not the success of those students that are within the program, but with the continuing and ongoing challenge of finding qualified, certified teachers. Despite some belief on the part of some individuals that we can simply recruit persons who wish to be a part of this and who are fluent in the language and get them in as teachers, it is not that simple. This is not solely an elementary school program. This is a world language immersion program. That's how it's recognized by the state. So for a teacher to teach in that program, they must carry certification in both elementary education and, in this case, French. We do have the means and have utilized the means of taking individuals through our GATE program to get them certified. In fact, I believe the most recent resignation in that program was a teacher that was certified in that manner. This has become an issue for years. This is not something that happened overnight. It's not something that happened in the last year or two. It's not something that happened as a result tied to the pandemic. This has been an ongoing challenge at Blythe to find dually certified teachers dating back several years. We have had teachers teach on visas. We've had teachers that we were able to get certified. We have gone to considerable effort at the school level, at the district level, to try to attract and retain teachers for the program. As that has become increasingly difficult, what it seems apparent to us, based on that increasing difficulty, is we're close to a point where we might have to just end the program, where we cannot find enough certified teachers to operate it, as opposed to being able to phase it out and continue to provide a level of French instruction. That is, ensure that every student, to the best of our ability to find those teachers that are currently in kindergarten, can finish the program out all the way through the end of their last elementary grade. That we then begin to replace that with students who may wish to learn the French language and approach it in a different way that does not require that same level of dual certification. In fact, teaching students French at the elementary level, we can do, I believe, Mr. McCoy, without any certification, so long as they're fluent in French. They meet the exemption under the state's regulations that allow for a related arts teacher not to be certified at the elementary level. That's the only area that the state allows non-certified personnel to teach. The ones that people have referenced as not being certified, those individuals were certified through our GATE program, which means they become eligible to be employed to teach as they are earning their certification. So we cannot just employ a person without going through that program or a similar program at the state level, which is equivalent to the GATE program, and engage them to teach in a world language immersion program. We can, however, move forward with teaching those students their core subjects in English and teach them the language through, if we have to utilize an uncertified person who is fluent, to use an uncertified person who is fluent, or actually put them through the GATE program and get them certified in French. There is overall a dramatic shortage of foreign language teachers at every level, including at the high school level, where we must provide foreign language instruction in order for students to successfully apply and matriculate to college. At minimum 2 years, and some colleges now requiring 3 years. So this is not a position we wish to be in. It is not the preference we have, which would be to try to continue this program. It is the realization that we are at the point that we could suddenly have to end this, and we believe that we would better serve our students, our community, in that school by phasing it out over time, rather than reaching a point where we end up where we don't have a separate 4th and 5th grade teacher. We've got one teacher. We lost that person. We continue to lose teachers like that and we can't replace them. We could have to immediately end the program. That would be a tremendous disservice to our students that are already in it. Ms. Bird?
The goal of our language immersion is to provide educational experiences beginning in kindergarten and ideally sustained through grade 12 that support academic and linguistic development in 2 languages and that develop students' appreciation of their own and other cultures. Immersion education adds knowledge about a new language and culture while building on a child's English language skills and knowledge of U.S. culture. Of course, with all of our schools in Greenville County, there are certain expectations around the core curriculum. ELA, math, science, social studies. Those are required for every school in Greenville County. While schools have different areas of focus, the core curriculum remains the same, and the focus influences that core curriculum, just like it does at Blythe. The first priority is always to ensure that all students have access to the high-quality district curriculum created by Greenville County teachers and staff, which focuses on the South Carolina curriculum standards. So looking at Blythe's current status, we currently house 2 immersion programs, Spanish and French, and a non-immersion program. While Spanish immersion interest is strong with a current waiting list of 34 students, we consistently see much less interest in French immersion based on the number of students who apply for this magnet. There's currently no waiting list for French immersion at Blythe. Year-to-year data shows that 1 French immersion class is formed in kindergarten each year, with between 22 to 26 students, typically accepting all students who apply. But the numbers dwindle to less than half that number by 5th grade, which creates scheduling challenges. While the Spanish immersion program also experiences some natural attrition, this can be accommodated more easily by reducing the number of classrooms. There are 5 kindergarten classrooms, but 3 5th grade classes for Spanish immersion this year. Immersion students cannot be added typically after 1st grade, except in unusual circumstances when students can demonstrate some beginning language. Fewer students are continuing on with French immersion at Greenville Middle Academy, only 2 from Blythe from last year's 5th grade, creating significant scheduling challenges at the middle school level as well. So just going through some of the challenges that have been discussed today. Blythe has tried to overcome significant challenges the last 6+ years with the French immersion program. Severe shortage of qualified staff to fill vacant positions for 6 years or more. As previously stated, teachers must be certified in elementary or early childhood and must be bilingual. Current state regulations do not allow waivers for core content areas in elementary. The pool of candidates who are both bilingual and possess the appropriate certifications is very small. We then have a responsibility to ensure that we hire a high-quality teacher from within that pool. When mid-year vacancies occur, as currently exists at Blythe in the 4th and 5th grade classrooms, there are no qualified candidates to fill the vacancies. College graduates, career changers pursuing alternative certification routes, as well as international teaching candidates are included in our candidate pool, and these are actively recruited not only by the school, but by our HR department. Declining enrollment as students advance grade levels. Students entering K-5 make up the largest class of French immersion students. However, the enrollment in French immersion declines as students advance through to 5th grade, some of that just natural attrition. While both Spanish and French immersion see a decline in student numbers, the Spanish program still meets minimum class size requirements in each grade level due to the ability to reduce the number of classes in the upper grades, which is not possible in the French program as it only starts with 1 class. Currently, there are 105 students enrolled in grades K through 5 in the French immersion path, which is about 12% of Blythe's population. Challenges with international teachers as well. International agencies are contacted anytime there's a vacancy and during the spring for recruiting vacancies. Many times we're recruiting year-round for language teachers, not only at Blythe, but district-wide. Limited number of visas are available and are generally not available after the start of the school year, which is what we ran into in this 4th and 5th grade position as well. So no visas were available. The French Embassy operates a 2-year program through a type of exchange. We've explored this in the past. The 2-year limit poses challenges as it takes teachers at least that long to become accustomed to the US and GCS curriculum. And of course, the purpose of that with the French Embassy is they want their teachers to come back and teach in their programs. They want them to learn a little bit about American culture and language, but they want them to pretty quickly come back to France. Pools of teachers are often very small from an international base, and teacher quality can sometimes pose significant challenges. Teachers are recruited from all Francophone countries, not just France. The District Foreign Language Specialists did in-person recruiting in French and Spanish-speaking countries for years. However, that return on investment was not worth the continued cost. Very few or sometimes no candidates at all resulted from those efforts. She recruited for all levels of foreign language when there was significant difficulty finding French and Spanish-speaking teachers. So last school year, we tried using an aide to supplement in a kindergarten classroom. Last year, we were unable to hire a 0.5 kindergarten teacher for French immersion. Because kindergarten has an aide in that classroom, we were able to use a French-speaking aide to supplement that curriculum, but that's not sustainable and it's not true French immersion. It was kind of a Band-Aid approach that helped us get through that kindergarten year, and we were glad that we were able to come up with that solution, but it wasn't the true French immersion that we feel like is important. It's critical that the core teacher knows exactly what's being taught, so if you have someone else translating, an aide or someone else translating for the teacher is not aware of what the students are being told and the quality of that instruction that's being provided. Aides are typically there to supplement instruction, not actually translating for the class. And of course, there are not enough bilingual aides to staff every grade level for a model like this to be feasible. So just looking at our current numbers at Blythe for this year, you can see that Spanish immersion is at 603 students. This year we started off with 5 homerooms in kindergarten. That fluctuates based on applications that we receive, space that we have in the building, those types of things. French immersion, as we previously stated, 105 students. And then our non-immersion classrooms typically begin in second grade. We sometimes have just a very few number of kindergarten and first grade students who come in not applying for the magnet school, but maybe living in close proximity to the school. But we are able to serve those children in one of those immersion classrooms. They are given the option starting in second grade if they would like to be in the non-immersion program. Now, of course, as we get new students to Blythe, non-magnet students, those students all go into those non-immersion classes from second grade on. So those numbers can continue to grow pretty significantly. You only have 2 second grade teachers there, although their numbers are a little bit smaller right now. They will receive all of the new students between now and the end of the year for that grade level. So we have to plan for that. So this is the proposed transition model that Dr. Roycer spoke to. The model would phase out with the last class of 5th grade at the end of 28-29 school year, as long as numbers continue to exist to sustain the program. The French Studies model will be implemented starting with the 24-25 school year in K-5, as long as numbers exist again and the staffing can be secured. The administration recommends modifying the current French immersion magnet at Blythe Academy to French Studies. All current students in the French immersion program will continue in French immersion as long as student enrollment numbers can sustain the continuation of the program and qualified teachers can be secured. The French immersion program will be completely phased out at the end of the 28-29 school year with the last class of 5th grade. French Studies would initiate with the 24-25 kindergarten class. French Studies is a class that is attended twice a week in addition to art, music, and PE as a related arts course. Students will be taught French language and culture, similar to that of other world languages. Students in French Studies will be taught math, science, social studies, and ELA in English by their assigned classroom teacher. Transitioning from French immersion to French Studies will allow us to continue offering the French language at Blythe Academy. In addition, it will be much easier to secure teachers for French Studies since they will not require early childhood or elementary certification. Got Mr. Sokol here with me, and so we'll be glad to take any questions.
Okay, let me go back here. Before we start the questioning, let me get a recommended motion so we can carry on with the discussion. Is there a recommended motion? Well, there is a recommended motion from the administration to eliminate the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy. Is there a second? No second. Okay, so now I'm going to open it up for discussion. All right, at this time, are there is there anyone that has a question? Okay. Anne Marie.
Thank you. So I have a number of questions. Let me see if I can get it together in my own head. I'm very interested in the French program. In terms of my own background, I took French in high school. I even took it in college, loved it. My kids took, both of my twins took French all through J.L. Mann High School, did the exchange program. We had an exchange student from France. So I feel very vested in the French language from what I know of it. But I do understand the dilemma. So my first question is there any way that we can get the state to look at our situation and put us in kind of a transitional position where we can see what happens in maybe a year or two, see if we can get more enrollees in the program? Because to me, it almost seems like what's the difference in ending it now and maybe in a couple of years, if we could get the state to look at something a little more agreeable? Because I I tend to be very hard on high-level academics for Greenville County Schools. I want us to be very high level. So we're talking high-level math, sciences, and certainly languages are part of that. So I don't want to water down a language program if we have a language program, which seems very passionate from what I'm hearing from people, which I like to encourage that too. Is that anything that can be done? This state?
Right now, we have the ability through our GATE program to get people who are interested and at least have some skill and ability. We can get them certified through GATE. Our concern is, as we look at this, twofold. One, those students have to be taught the core subjects to a level that will build the foundation they have as they move forward every grade. So we have to watch that very closely. We've heard some reference to them outperforming others. Actually, the statistics that we have for the last 2 years show, I believe, Dr. McCrary, in the 21-22 school year, Spanish immersion students outperformed French immersion statistically significantly in 7th and 8th grade, and to a degree in the 6th grade, but not statistically significantly. And in 22-23, they performed slightly better, but not statistically significantly better in any grade. Is that correct, Dr. McCrary?
That was 3rd and 4th grade, yes.
3rd and 4th grade.
Yes.
So that's a concern that as we go forward, if we bring in more and more marginally qualified people, how will that affect core instruction? That's one concern. The second concern, and I referenced it in my opening comments, when we gave consideration to this, one of the most significant considerations, was this is a way to phase it out and our best effort to ensure those currently in it can finish it. If we patchwork things together year after year, what I suspect will happen is we'll reach a point where we have to shut it down with people that are currently in the pipeline, so to speak, that have already been in French immersion. That's the reason to make the recommendation to phase it. And we're talking about basically a 5-year sunset, which is a pretty lengthy sunset for any kind of program. I suspect if we continue to move forward with again, just piecing it together, assuming we can find teachers through various methods, that we'll hit a year and we have to say, we just have to shut the thing down right now. That is not in the best interest of those currently in the program, we don't believe. The first thing we want to make sure that we have the best quality teacher for every student in the district, regardless of what program they're in, what school they're in, or what grade they're in. So this goes, one, to teacher quality. That's not to say we don't have good quality teachers in there now, but we currently only have enough teachers to serve. With the 4th and 5th combined, we are short a qualified teacher at 2 grade levels because we lost the 4-5 combination teacher. And we didn't have enough prior to that to serve the 2 grades individually. And there have been other proposals that have advanced, and Brenda mentioned one of them in her comments, to have someone translate. Well, the problem with that, if you're the teacher in that classroom and you don't know that language, you don't know how accurately that person is translating the information you're trying to impart to your students. So that's why we are at the juncture we're at now. We believe, while it might seem to be a good idea, and it certainly has advantages to it, to continue to move it forward year by year, I think it dramatically increases the likelihood that we have to just end it 1 year and we got students in there that get put out in the 1st grade or the 2nd grade or the 3rd grade rather than trying to sunset it over a 5-year period. That's the rationale behind our reasoning.
Thank you, and that makes a lot of sense. But now that we've had this kind of stimulus, and maybe the parents didn't really, or the community didn't really think that there was a threat out there. Maybe now that we've seen there's a threat, maybe there would be a lot more movement to try to do something the next year to get more kids in there and to perhaps find some teachers. And then maybe think about, I just feel it sounds hard to me to, it sounds like there's just a lot of community involvement in this program. That's my concern. That's all I have, I think, for the minute.
Righty. Thank you, Ms. Middleton. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you. How long has the French immersion program existed at Blythe? Thank you. What do we think the reasons are why there's so much more difficulty now in obtaining and retaining French immersion teachers as compared to the past, going back maybe to the inception of the program and then the earlier years of it?
I can speak to the history from mid-2000s forward. Brenda can speak to some of this as well. There's always been a challenge with finding teachers at Blythe because of the requirement to be both elementary certified and fluent and certified in the language, whether Spanish or French. In that period of time, from the mid-2000s to today, the ability to recruit foreign language teachers of any language has become harder and harder with every passing year. There's still a greater number of Spanish-speaking and Spanish-certified teachers than there are teachers that are certified in German, Latin, and French. If you go back that many years, we had a number of schools in the district that were teaching German, that were teaching Latin, teaching French, or teaching Spanish. Over the years, the number of those course offerings in Latin and German have greatly diminished, and in French, because of the availability of teachers. So in an ever decreasing pool of foreign language teachers who only have to be certified in foreign language to teach foreign language, we've got a subset in there that have to be dually certified. They're an ever diminishing number inside a bigger ever diminishing number. So in that period of time, we have, you saw reference to that in her reference to, actually our foreign language person, Debbie Carrera, for several years actively recruited in France, in French-speaking and Spanish-speaking countries. That was going on when I came to the district in the mid-2000s. She was recruiting for all languages, but specifically for the immersion program at Blythe and for other foreign languages. We weren't getting a return from that equaled the effort. We have brought foreign teachers in numerous times. And what that means is whatever you're paying that teacher, you could tack about $10,000 to $14,000 onto that for us to pay the resulting fees for bringing those in. So it's not like tremendous effort hasn't been made over a number of years. And all the while, we're watching this number of qualified, interested people continually diminish over time. We've also seen that same sort of reduction in language programs in other areas. There have been at least, I know there was at least one other French school in Greenville. I'm not sure there weren't two at one time that they closed those operations. Now, they were French schools teaching the French curriculum. But in a time when we struggle to recruit language teachers at every level, this has become even more difficult to recruit these. We engaged immigration attorneys in bringing people into the country to teach. So we have done many things over many years that maybe there's not any tremendous public awareness of, to try to keep both those programs afloat. And fortunately, with the Spanish one, there are more qualified candidates that are interested in and apply for those positions.
Obviously, going back to what Ms. Middleton said a few moments ago, there's a great deal of support for the French immersion program from the parents. Since there has apparently been discussion in recent years, we've been told, as to shutting down the French immersion program, why was there not a greater effort made in those past years to inform the parents as to the possibility of shutting down the program, so that we might have better partnered with the parents to find a solution?
I don't believe that that's perhaps the reflection that we would have on that. And I'm going to let Ms. Bird speak to that, because she's been involved in this for how many years, Brenda? For 10 years. So I'm going to let her speak to the specifics of that.
So even when Dr. Griffin was there, she shared with me that she shared concerns with her PTA and SIC around the challenges that she faced with securing the proper certifications for the teachers there. I can just remember every year working with Sandra and now with Stephen, sometimes it's up to the very last minute where we are still trying to secure a teacher. And that's a challenging position to be in when it's August and you still have a vacant position for a teacher in a critical needs area like foreign language. But Sandra said that she had those ongoing conversations. Don't know that it was to the extent of talking about closing the program, but we've tried to be open around the challenges that we have. As Dr. Royster shared, this is not our desire to be making this recommendation today. We're very proud of our immersion programs at Blythe, and I think we're doing everything we possibly can to keep that from happening. But this is our current reality today.
Yeah, I guess that would be part of my concern, that, and of course, I don't know what those discussions in the PTA meetings were about, but just that the parents were informed as to the extent of the issue, to where, hey, if we can't ongoing solve some of these problems, we're going to shut the program down. It just seems that that if that had been done, then the parents that have shown all this interest in the teachers, in the program, and their love for the program and belief in it, would have then, I think they would have had more of an ability to decide that, hey, yes, maybe we can partner with the district and we need to see what we can do. It seems like we missed an opportunity there. Thank you, Ms. Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Those were great questions. Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell.
Thank you for the presentation. I have some questions about the phasing out of the program to go to French studies. What if during this phase out period, there becomes an abundance of qualified teachers? Will we shift or pivot from this recommendation if there becomes an overabundance of qualified teachers to come do the French immersion? Will we pivot from this recommendation?
I think if that would become apparent, we certainly would look at reinstating that program. That, based on the availability of foreign language teachers right now, that doesn't seem likely, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell, but certainly we would reconsider it if that were the case.
But it could happen.
Could.
Yeah, it could happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I have a question. I don't know whether anybody up here would know. Do we know why why Michelin closed down their French school?
I'm not
it
certain
closed
why.
in
Now, that was a French
2022.
school where they taught the French curriculum in French to the children of employees that were transferred in here.
Right.
I suspect it might have had some difficulty in teacher, but I don't really know, and I don't know that anyone here knows. We just know they had one and shut it down. And I think, Mr. McCoy, didn't we make some effort to try to recruit some of their former teachers to our immersion program? Is that not right?
And the state has always had this requirement for the immersion programs that they have to be certified in elementary and French.
For a world language immersion program, I don't know how many years that regulation goes back. Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell, Mr. McCoy might know, but currently, if that's the program we operate, they must have both certifications.
Okay.
Now, I know there's belief out there that's not accurate, but that's the state regulation.
Okay, Jeff, does the state have any alternate than this world-class immersion model that we have to have them certified in both? Do they have any kind of alternate program in the state? Because I know we can't find qualified staff because of the requirements from the state. Do you know of any alternate where that we could still have a world, it wouldn't be considered a world-class immersion program, but it's still a French immersion program. Do we have any?
Not that I'm aware of, Ms. Goodwin-Caldwell. I think Dr. Royster referenced this, the waivers we requested that y'all approved a couple years ago, 2 years ago. Those waivers apply to related arts in elementary. They do not apply to the core content areas in elementary, versus at the high school level and the middle school level, that those waivers of not being certified can actually apply to any teacher. But elementary, the caveat in the regulation is that it cannot apply to any core teaching experience.
Do we know why?
I don't know the justification around that, no.
Well, no, I think part of that reasoning would be, and it'd be a concern we'd have, they've got to be highly capable of teaching the core subjects, particularly math and English language arts, because that's the foundation for everything they do going forward after that.
Right.
And we certainly want them to learn the language appropriately and by a certified teacher. Our alternative to doing that is we can put candidates through the GATE program, but one, they got to be fluent in French or Spanish, if we were looking for a Spanish teacher, or German or any other language. They've got to be fluent in the language, because part of that GATE requirement is, one, we have a desire they be fluent in the language just from a practical standpoint, but they must pass the praxis in that language, which ensures they are fluent in the language.
So they have to take the praxis in French?
They have to take the praxis for French certification, which would mean taking it in the language. And given that, we can get them dually certified. And I believe the teacher that resigned in October was in fact one that was in the process of being certified. So when people refer to, we've hired people that weren't certified, they would be in the GATE program, which is approved for them to begin without having the certification, as long as they're following that program. And by the end of the first year, if they successfully complete it, they are fully certified. But during that 1 year period, the regulation about them being certified does not apply to them. They are considered as certified in their first year of employment.
So what we're saying is that we don't have a pipeline of those that are coming into the GATE program for this specific.
Well, what we try to find is what our folks recruit for is someone who would be interested in doing this, and then we explore with them, how can we get you certified? And that's one of the ways to get them certified. whether they, ideally, they would already be certified in one or the other, but they don't technically have to be. We can get them certified. But we got to be sure that they can deliver quality instruction in the core subject areas.
With this presentation, I didn't know it was going to be phased out in a period of 5 years. So I directed to the community, y'all find some qualified people within this time where we can go back and look at it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin Caldwell. At this time, Ms. Amanda Brett, please.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells. I believe I'm the only person sitting up here whose child and children went to Blythe Academy. Nope. Oh, did yours? Yes, awesome. Really? Okay, well, yay, I'm wrong. I can tell you this, it was a beautiful experience for both of my kids. We were in the Spanish Immersion program, and Dr. Griffin was pretty awesome. I would see her walking around that school with 10-inch heels on and a pencil skirt and high blonde hair. I can promise you this would not have happened under her watch. She would have done everything in her power to be sure that she did not lose one of these immersion programs. And there's something to be said about the immersion programs because it is a whole different way of learning than anything that you could ever be involved in. My senior in high school, I have two sons. One is at the Citadel and one is a senior at Greenville High School. My children left Blythe in 4th grade. My oldest son could not learn anymore in that language immersion program. That's a whole other subject. My senior in high school still is fluent in Spanish, even though he did not continue past 4th grade in that immersion program. And I am so proud of Greenville County for having offered this to our community. The questions that are being asked today are all questions I had written down. Something that does concern me is that the lack of communication that was given to these parents. Where is this Google form that you were promised? Why were these children moved into Spanish classes when they had been in these French classes? And you were told one thing and another thing was done. So I guess I'm really interested in the timeline here of the communication timelines from the time that you realized this teacher was not going to be there and the process that we went through to inform these parents of what was going on.
The previous 4th and 5th grade teacher that resigned on a Sunday evening going into Monday. Parents were informed that week that they would be moving classrooms so that they could continue to receive core content instruction while we looked for a replacement. And those students by that Thursday were placed into their next math and science classroom, and their ELA social studies classroom was kept the same in order to keep their schedule as consistent as possible.
What about this Google form that the parents were promised? Where is that?
We had discussed a Google form. After we met, input had been given from the 4th and 5th grade parents as well as others in other grade levels in a different format. After we had met as a community with the French immersion parents.
Thank you. I'm with Ms. Goodwin Caldwell. I hope that the community can rally together and that we can work on finding someone to help you guys. I don't want to see this go either. I think that it is such a wonderful thing to offer our community, and maybe when my children were there, I feel like there was even more community involvement, but maybe because at that time I was involved, boots on the ground, but hopefully we can figure out what to do with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Dr. Stiles.
Yes, in previous conversation, I heard mention of a combination class. And I wanted to know a little bit more about that, and was a combination class made in order to continue with the French immersion program? Can you speak to that just a little bit? I just heard that mentioned. I want to know more about that.
So it might not be a combination class like So a full-time immersion teacher teaches 2 grade levels. May teach the 4th graders in the morning, math and science, the 5th graders in the afternoon, math and science. And the children have a different teacher that teaches ELA and social studies. So it's kind of like team teaching a little bit that you're probably familiar with, instead of more of like a combination. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I just wanted some clarity on that. I didn't think we had combination classes anymore. Thank you.
That all, Dr. Stiles?
I think as a follow-up to Dr. Stiles' point, the reason for doing that was to continue the program. That was not the preferred methodology, and it was not what was used for a number of years. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. I think though that if you only have 1 homeroom, and I think the school has traditionally had 1 homeroom for French. And so if they're only teaching those students math and science for half the day, the teacher would need another group of students to teach for the afternoon because they don't teach all 4 content areas in the language. Another teacher would be teaching them in English. Now, there may have been a period of time, Dr. Royster, where that immersion teacher was teaching them in French or Spanish for half the day, and then they were teaching them in English. I'm not aware of the early year history as much.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Ms. Mosley?
Thank you, Ms. LaVentus Wells.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I need a couple points of clarification. So in here, it says something about fewer students continuing on in French immersion at Greenville Middle. Are we phasing out, or do we have, admittedly, I don't know about Greenville Middle. So are we phasing out that as well?
I'm not aware of a plan to phase it out. I do know that Ms. Andrews has also been using French studies to some degree. Mr. McCoy may have additional information about the middle years program.
Yes, ma'am. The French studies is deployed at Greenville Middle due to the low numbers. Again, last year 2 students matriculated from Blythe to Greenville Middle. Obviously, you can't do class with 2 students. So that was expanded into French studies program for there. They also have at the middle school, they have a little bit of different opportunity because they can offer French 1 and French 2 for high school credit. So we can, we've got a little bit more options and not quite the certification caveats, if you will, put on it.
I'm sorry, we will not have any discussion at this time from the audience. We had our speakers, and at this time, this discussion for board members only. I apologize, but thank you for understanding.
Okay, so Jeff, let me just make sure I understand. So students from Blythe who are in French immersion right now, do all of them go up to Greenville, or do they go to other schools?
No, they have choice. They can go to Greenville Middle, but they can also choice to other schools as well.
Okay, so in those other schools, do we have French immersion, or are we
do not.
Just at Greenville Middle? So if
Correct.
they wanted to continue French immersion, they would have
Correct.
to choose Greenville Middle?
That's right.
Okay, and if they're not zoned for that, that would be an application, like a magnet application?
That would be a choice application.
Choice application, okay.
We put that pathway in, Jeff, 10?
Yeah, it's been
about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
To make sure that coming out of Blythe, the Spanish students had a path forward, which is Hughes, and the French students had a path forward, which was, or is, Greenville Middle. And I don't think we've ever turned a student down. They actually apply, even though those are magnet, they have magnet status. That's not really their magnet status, but that's where we set so there'd be a way to continue.
Okay.
Now, to Jeff's point, it becomes easier at the middle school level because if nothing else, we can put them into French 1 or French 2 or even French 3 if they were able to do that, which would then well position them to take a different foreign language, maybe in high school. But at the middle school level, we have been teaching it in such a way that it only requires 1 certification, basically for them to be certified in French or Spanish. And then there's some greater flexibility at the secondary level with certifications. We have no intention of ending that. As long as we have students in this pipeline, we would want them to be able to continue at the middle school level.
Okay. So that leads to my next question. You kind of touched on the taking French for credit. So they're eligible to do that at what grade?
Well, you can take high school credit starting in 7th grade.
7th grade.
You can start earning high school
Okay.
credit.
So if we phase this out over the course of 5 years, and we have students who are coming out of Blythe from French studies, and they chose to continue French in middle school, they would have the option of high school credit beginning in the 7th grade.
Yes, we can offer, as many of our middle schools do offer, or do virtually, yes.
Are most of our students, since we only have such a low number continuing in the immersion piece at Greenville Middle, are most of them opting for the credit? What are they choosing to do other?
There is still credit they're receiving, yes, high school credit they are still receiving once they hit that 7th grade piece.
No, what I'm asking is, what are they choosing to do if they're coming, if they've been in French immersion all the way through 5th grade at Blythe, what are they choosing to do when they go to middle school if they're not? Because it looks like, according to this data, only 2 chose to go French immersion at Greenville Middle.
So they do have in one of the subjects of French studies class that the student, that actually can be more students than just.
Is that like a related arts class?
It would be considered related arts, yes.
Is that every day?
That one I believe is every day.
Okay, I can't remember
I
the
have to
middle
double
school
check with
schedule.
Miss Andrews for sure on that.
Okay, so then this French studies that we are wanting to migrate to at Blythe, I understand it would be taken like a related arts class
Yes, ma'am.
twice a week?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you apply for it, or is there going to be a waiting, like, would the students who would normally wanted to be in the immersion program have to apply for this?
They would have to express interest in doing it, yes. We wouldn't just automatically place students in that studies class.
Okay. In other words, you have to express an interest to do it.
Correct.
So any student that didn't want to be in French would not have that as a related art?
No.
How long is a related art period?
It ranges from school, but typically 45 minutes is typically, some schools go a little higher in elementary.
Okay, so for twice a week, are they going to be learning the same things that they would have learned in immersion? I mean,
You wouldn't, because they're in immersion, of course, they're doing the math and science content. So this would be more cultures and that type
this
of
is
thing.
strictly the language.
Mhm. It'd be a study, yeah, French studies.
Okay, that's all the questions I have right now.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Ms. Doolin?
What elementary schools currently have a language studies program?
Language studies, similar programs would be the schools that used to be IB in elementary, so Heritage.
Sarah Collins.
Sarah Collins, there's one more, I think.
Fort Shoals.
Fort Shoals.
Fort Shoals.
And are those Spanish?
They are
classes?
Spanish, yes, ma'am.
Are the teachers that teach those full-time employees?
I believe they're, one of those cases, I believe, Ms. Bird, they're shared. But they're full-time at least in one or two of those positions, yes.
So, according to this plan, next year there would be a potential kindergarten class at Blythe that went to French twice a week for 45 minutes. And that replaces library and computer lab or whatever related arts is.
Yeah, it would have to replace one of the 5, yes.
That could either be
The
the
two of them.
same 2, or it could be rotated throughout the year. I don't know that they've reached the point of deciding that. Is that right, Ms. Bird?
Yes.
Or
We
do you-
still make sure they have library, media center. That wouldn't be something that we would eliminate.
So they would go twice for 45 minutes. And so where is the teacher going to come from that teaches 2 45-minute French classes per week?
That would be a full-time teacher that over different grades would have a full course load.
What other grades would that teacher teach, though, if it's just next year, it's just kindergarten?
Eventually, they'd be teaching all the grades, or it might require 2 to teach the grades. It depends on how many students are interested in it. And we have such a shortage of foreign language teachers. There's no problem with them being fully engaged in a teaching schedule to teach all day long.
But But for next year, if there's only 2 45-minute classes, I don't really see, I don't understand where they're gonna be, what are they gonna be doing the other 35 hours of the week?
Well, there's only 2 classes at Blythe. We've got foreign language demands all over the district.
Oh, so it would be a teacher that teaches somewhere else?
They could be shared, they could be doing virtual, they could be doing French virtually. And if we could find, if someone only wanted to work part-time, we could work that out too. We're gonna do whatever we need to do in order to get a qualified teacher to work with them in that language. Again, remembering that doesn't have to be somebody that's certified, because it's now becomes a related art. Now, obviously, we want to make sure they're fluent in the language, but they do not have to be certified.
Well, do you think it would then make more sense to not offer it at Blythe, but to have it at a different elementary school, such as like Heritage and Sarah Collins and Fork Shoals do, where an entire school could participate? And then the teacher could be a full-time employee at one school?
I'm not sure exactly how to answer that. I'm not sure what the benefit from that would be, I guess. Could you ask it a different way? Maybe I'd do a better job answering it.
Sure. If attending Blythe requires school choice, and there's roughly 22 students in a kindergarten class, wouldn't more students benefit from having French as a related arts class if it was at, not at the immersion school, but at, well, Augusta Circle probably doesn't have room, but I mean, what if Sarah Collins offered Spanish or French?
Okay, I follow what you're saying now. I think that's a.
May I, without objection, extend for 20 minutes? Yes, okay, thank you.
I understand what you're saying now. That's certainly a good idea to make it open to more individuals. The issue with that, though, I believe would be, and it might be possible to do that either remotely or have that teacher to move to address it in other schools if they wish to have it. But that would cause disruption to the students that are already at Blythe. So what we'd like to do is keep them there as that rolls up. We can move it to another location, but the ones that are in proximity to Blythe that are magnets, i.e. we provide transportation, well, they're already full. In fact, of the ones that teach foreign language, Fork Shoals is as remote from the center of the county as any elementary school, probably other than Tigerville. Sarah Collins is full, and I believe they have 70-something on the waiting list to get into Sarah Collins. You mentioned Augusta Circle has no room. We're struggling there with the zoned population because of space. Stone is full with a waiting list. Now, there would be transportation to Stone, because remember, as being a magnet, if students wish, and I don't know how many of these are being transported, they're receiving magnet transportation to Blythe. So right now, as this moves forward, if it's approved, that could open up the possibility for more students who wish to be in Spanish immersion. I don't know, are there students on the waiting list for Spanish immersion, or do you know?
We ended the last year going into this year with 34 students on our kindergarten wait list in Spanish immersion alone. The magnet window for next year just opened yesterday.
So as to your point, as this were phased out over the years, it could be each year with the next entry class of kindergarten, it could be replaced with a Spanish immersion expansion. And we could try to offer the French opportunity somewhere else with whatever teachers we have. But we got to have enough teachers over there to roll up the 5 years to ensure that we continue to provide this immersion program to the students that are already in it.
So you think after the 5 years, if Blythe still needed more room for Spanish immersion, then the French might even move to a different campus.
Move to a different, I missed the last thing you said.
It moved to a different campus, like,
Or that French could be offered on a rotating basis to multiple schools by the teacher moving from school to school.
okay, I see.
That would be a possibility. But to your point, we have a demand for immersion in Spanish that we're not meeting. 34 would be at least one more class, and that frees up that space. Now, we would prefer to have a more diverse language program. It'd be nice if we had German. It'd be nice if we had French, but we're struggling to find those teachers at the level where we must ensure that we provide it so students can matriculate to college.
So as far as advertising for teachers goes, I did see that the current position was posted on Indeed 3 days ago, as someone mentioned. Also, just for South Carolina schools, there's a private school in Charleston that needs a French teacher. There's us. Aiken County needs a French teacher. Another private school in Charleston. And Bamberg is desperate. They'll take French or Spanish. But that's all that's listed for the whole state. So is South Carolina just short? I mean, surely there's more than 5 positions open. If we're so desperate we can't find anyone.
Well, I think those are 5 positions that are open right now.
Right. They are.
Not how many were open this summer, which would have been a far larger number than that. And, you know, that so far to that Indeed posting, I believe, Ms. Clements, we had two candidates apply, neither one of which are qualified.
That is accurate, sir.
And then contrary to that, the district posted on September 26th. So it wasn't just 3 days ago, it's been well over a month.
Well, we use that methodology frequently. I don't know, but I assume HR would have used that in looking for teachers going into this year. Because we're not, this isn't just a problem because this teacher resigned in October. This has been an ongoing, long-term problem to find these teachers. It's just exacerbated when one leaves in October.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doolin. Ms. Morrison Fair.
Thank you, Ms. Lavenders Wells. It saddens me to think that we have gotten to this point. I heard the comments of the people who spoke, and I appreciate your comments. I can only say that it bothers me that the communication some type of way fell through the cracks. But as I listen to the comments in the report, I too am saddened that we're at this point. The benefits of studying another culture, you cannot even put a price tag on it. It's just unbelievable. I've had my own children in another state study different cultures, and they benefited immensely from it. However, as I listen to the information, I see that our hands are tied by the state. I see that we lack qualified personnel, and one thing I do not want is not to offer a superior program to our children. I do not want us to have a French immersion program or any other program that will result in the students not benefiting from what we would call an immersion program. The testimonies that you have given speaks to that, because the program was first class. That is why we were able to turn out the children that we did. My only question is that the motion says to eliminate the French immersion program. I want to make sure that that motion also speaks to not eliminate but phase out, because I do not want the students that are in there now not to be able to benefit from this program. So I don't know if we need a substitute motion, but the motion does say to eliminate, and I want to make sure that the students that are in there now are able to complete their studies.
Mr. Webb,
please.
I was gonna ask.
Thank you.
Sure, so I agree that the motion, as discussed, if that's the intent, should be amended. Two different ways it could be amended: to eliminate the French program as a magnet program at Blythe Academy on a specific year, 5 years out, for example, or we could use the word phase out. It depends on what you wish to do.
And what do you recommend, Dr.
I recommend, I certainly agree with what you're saying, Ms. Morrison Fair, and our recommendation would be to adopt the wording to phase out, to remove, eliminate, to replace it with the phrase to phase out the French immersion program.
There's a recommended motion. Is there a second? Okay, and Doug, do we vote on that? Well, do we vote on the first one or vote on this one? Well,
Yeah,
we still are in discussion. So
So you could amend it, vote on the amendment and continue discussion from
okay,
there.
all right.
Now, I would say, I think there needs to be some more clarity on the phase out, in my opinion.
I mean,
Perhaps
I
just
think
to
there
phase
needs to be
out
a time specific.
the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented. I think if you put in as presented at the end, I think that gives enough clarification.
Okay, so Dr. Royster,
Ma'am.
can you read me that amended motion?
It would, with Mr. Webb's recommendation, would read to phase out the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented. So that would reference us back to the presentation documents, and that's what we would follow.
Doug, you said we needed to vote on that now.
Yes, and then you can still have discussion from there.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I ask a point of clarification here?
Yes, sir.
For the moment, since we have this substitute motion, are we only voting to update the language, or are we voting
on the
motion itself?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if we're voting on the motion, then there's no discussion.
You are voting to amend the motion, and then you would have to have another motion for the overall approval. So,
Okay.
So first amend it, then you can have discussion, and then you can have the final vote.
Okay. Does that clarify? Okay. Ms. Middleton, that clarify for you as well?
I did have one small point, if I could.
Okay.
I think this is a good move, saying to phase out, because eliminate sounds like a total death knell. But can we also add in there that the program could be reinstated if circumstances would warrant somehow, such as we could get more teachers, things would be changing. How do we know what might happen next year? Or something could change. Maybe the visas will, I don't know. Maybe the state will change. Maybe other communities will have these same problems and come to the state and ask them to reevaluate how they determine what's a world immersion criteria. Or is that out of whack?
Well, couple things. One, if we add that language, I think it needs to be a substitute motion because it's clearly different in scope than it is right now. Second, if that's the board's decision, if you so wish to have a substitute motion, I don't believe that the amendment has been seconded
It has
yet.
not been seconded.
So there's nothing that you have to vote on right now, so that can be discussed. I did.
Did
Okay.
Michelle second?
All right, well, if Ms. Goodwin Caldwell second, then that amendment would have to be voted upon at this juncture. But if it fails, then there can be that discussion of a substitute motion.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the amended motion where the wording is phased out, not anything that Ms. Middleton just stated. So we will vote on the amended motion. And if there is any additional to whatever motion, if this passes, then we will amend that motion, okay?
And just for clarity,
Yes.
make sure everybody's on the same page. What is being voted upon right now as an amendment is to phase out the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented.
Okay. Does everyone understand? And it was seconded by Mrs. Michelle Goodwin Caldwell.
That's great, not the
You
final
gotta-
approval.
You've got to, because we have a prior motion, we have to do this. All right, all those in favor, please address by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Now, if there is, yes, Ms. Moses. You went like the, okay. Did you want, were you wanting to amend that motion?
I do.
Okay, well, explain.
I do appreciate what we are understanding, and I know the district has made, from what you've discussed, a lot of efforts to make this program work. I think that needs to be very clear. And I do want to give the benefit to the students to phase it out so that they have the full benefit of the French immersion for the elementary school level. However, I do believe that it is possible that things could change. I understand that when communities support things and they go to their representatives or they go to their senators, I've been told this by Senator Lindsay, actually a month ago, that they take notice. Okay, so the state is going to take notice if people come and go and say, we want something different, I think, and something could change next year. So yes, I do want to amend it in such a way that we can reinstate it, because otherwise Blythe will not be a language immersion program. It will be a Spanish immersion program. That will be the magnet. It's not all languages, right? We don't even have a multiple language. We just have one language, really. So I think the goal is to have higher achieving. It might be possible. So my note was reality versus possible. I always believe in the possible. I think it's there. So I'd like to make a different motion.
Mr. Webb?
Do I have to say it? I've never stated a motion before.
Well, ask Mr. Webb if he can.
I'm new.
Your wording. Tell him what you want.
I want to say that we will, as presented, phase out this program for the benefit of the students, and we will reinstate it if the circumstances would warrant that.
Well, I think you just stated your motion. Yeah.
I think that's pretty easy and well understood. So,
Depends on, if, and I do think logistically, I think the board would need to revisit this in the sense that it would have to have a discussion and a formal vote to change course, if that's the case. So revisit would probably be the most appropriate term.
are you good with that? Hello?
I'm thinking, I like reinstate because I'm understanding, if I'm understanding right, correct me if I'm wrong, that this program is very good. I haven't heard one person say they didn't like it. So I would say that we would want to reinstate it if we could find the appropriate personnel, or if the state would give us some kind of a transitional waiver. I think we should reinstate it.
And I understand the logic there. I would be concerned as far as the trigger, far as how that would actually take place, because in reality is what facts and circumstances would warrant that. I think that would be a subsequent discussion by the board, a subsequent vote, because otherwise the motion would contemplate what is a trigger, what would require the district to reinstate it. And without more, I think there would need to be another discussion about that.
Thank you for clarifying that. That makes perfect sense to me. Yes, yes.
So, Mr. Webb, will you read that motion, please?
Yeah, I was writing it down and talking at the same time. Nancy, were you able, or Gail, able to?
Gail, do you have the motion?
Have the,
Ms. Varner, will you read that motion for us?
give me just a second. To phase out the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented. Sorry. And to reinstate if circumstances warrant. No, sorry.
I think review.
Review, well.
Revisit.
I had gotten revisit.
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 Mr. Webb said was at the very end to be revisited if circumstances change.
Yes. That's what I was writing now.
To be revisited.
So if that's an accurate reflection of what Mr. Webb said, it would now read to phase out the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented, comma, to be revisited if circumstances change. Does that reflect, Ms. Middleton, your thinking and Mr. Webb's interpretation?
Yes, I had said, if warranted.
If warranted.
That's the word I had used.
So replace changed with warranted, if circumstances warranted. Or warrant?
I have.
Circumstances warrant.
Warrant.
Warrant is what she
Yeah.
Did our 20 minutes just buzz?
Yes, ma'am.
Alex, how many more have questions? 1, 2, 3.
All right, just for clarity, again, where we sit right now with the proposed amendment to the motion.
20 minutes without objection.
All right, so the motion is to phase out the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented, to be revisited if circumstances warrant. That's where it sits right now.
All right, so we have an amended motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Bush? Any discussion? On the amendment, well, once we can pass the amended motion, then we can have discussion. Okay.
Just a point of clarification again, just to make sure, we're voting on just the language change at the moment.
Just the language.
That's
We're not
correct.
voting on the motion, just the language.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, discussion. So I think I have Dr. Presley.
Thank you, Ms. Levinas Wells. It has been a roller coaster of 3 weeks since this came to the top of the discussion. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll start with a statement. Kudos to Greenville County School District. We have the longest running immersion programs in the state of South Carolina. We started in 1995. And that is something to be very proud of. It's also something to fight for, and I'll say that. But I have a couple of questions. Currently, we have we have 3 districts, and this is just for informational purposes, and it's important because we as Greenville County Schools position ourselves as the best of the best. French is currently offered in Greenville County, Lex 1, and Rock Hill. And what we know about those districts, they're high-flying districts as well. My first question is about the what it takes to be an immersion teacher, because I think we feel a little hazy on the certification requirements. So my understanding, I think we need a final answer on this for any of us to make an informed decision. My understanding from my work at the State Department, from my continued connectivity with Ms. Mary Hipp, who is over the Office of Certification, is that a teacher to teach, and let's just say for elementary purposes, they have to be certified in K-5 elementary and proficient in the French language. Proficiency is different than a dual certification. I need to get a final word on that from the final. So who can speak to that? Because before we move forward, we need clarification on that.
I'm actually gonna let, I think Margaret's slide. Ms. Clements.
Margaret's in the back. You need to go to the microphone.
Come to.
Please bring them.
So you have to be either certified in the world language that you're teaching and have the praxis exam in the subject area, or you have to be elementary certified and have a past praxis exam in the world language. Is that information?
Which that parallels how we have utilized GATE to meet both qualifications.
So let me make sure for everybody's purposes, because this jives with what's being shared at the State Department, and it's important because it does provide some opportunities for leeway for teachers who are seeking to be a part of this. They either need to be certified in K-5 elementary, take the praxis in French to be able to do that, or they can have a K-12 certification in French and take the praxis for K-5 to be a K-5 elementary teacher, correct?
Yes, I can read it to you. There's also another test, but not that. It's kind of a newer test, but World Language Immersion Programs, grades 2 through 3, for example, you can be early childhood or elementary and have one of the following: a passing score on the praxis examination for the target world language, or a passing score on the American Council of Teaching of Foreign Languages oral proficiency interview and writing proficiency in the target language, or you can have a valid South Carolina certificate in the target world language, plus a passing score on the praxis examination for early childhood or elementary.
And in reference to the ACTFL's proficiency scale that I'm looking at right now, do we know, and I'm looking at it, and we obviously can't share it but it runs from novice low all the way to advanced high, and there are 9 different levels. And based on what I'm looking at, this gives you the type of professional for this particular proficiency level. Are we shooting for advanced low if someone were to take the proficiency test? Do we have any clarification on that? Because that's also important, or at least it is to inform my decision. Do we know what we're actually looking for as far as the proficiency level goes, if that's the route?
The guidance is a passing score. That would be all.
State Department needs to get on that one, get some clarification on that.
I think we've traditionally stuck with using praxis, Margaret.
That is correct.
Which would ensure proficiency in the language.
And if I remember correctly, there is the elementary praxis is a 4-part test, all areas.
Of course, our concern there is their ability to teach those individual core subjects at the elementary level.
I think that's one of the things, as far as the difficulties, and anyone who's been around for a minute knows that this has been an ongoing battle. And finding these teachers, I compared it to finding a unicorn in a lot of situations, because whether the teacher's K-5 and are proficient, that level of proficiency is critical, because if they're not able to effectively deliver that math and that science, it can put students at a disadvantage. That is a part of the reality of this situation. I'm familiar with the steps that have been taken over the years to try to secure these teachers. My wonder is, have we exhausted every single thing that we can possibly do? Ms. Middleton, I appreciate your amendments to the verbiage. I would hate to see us remove or dissolve something that has been such a point of pride for Greenville County Schools as the largest district in the state. And I take this decision very, very seriously. So thank y'all for the clarification on that.
Leslie, you had a question? Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Like Dr. Presley, I take this very seriously. And I just need to ask this one question, and it's kind of a big one. What happens if we as a board choose not to approve your recommendation today? What happens to this program?
We will continue to try to find teachers that meet the certification requirements, that provide the level of quality that you all are committed to and that we're committed to. If we fail to do that, we would come back to you, and what will likely result would we be recommending that you end the program immediately. Because we think it's going to be, to a degree, difficult even to find people to continue it out through the number of students in the grade levels they're in now. And that really played heavily in us bringing this recommendation forward. If we don't act in a proactive way to phase it out, I think we again will end up being faced, like right now, we do not have a 4-5 teacher. So maybe next year we don't get a 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade teacher. You never know what may happen with people over time. So we have seen the increasing challenge of finding people over the years. Something that was never really easy to do to begin with, but there are even fewer people out there. So the longer we delay this in the trend that, given the trend that we have seen over several years, the more likely we end up at a point where we have to come in and say, we just need to end this right now, because we cannot sustain it even with phasing it out or trying to replace it with conversational French, French studies, however you want to look at the program we propose to replace it with. So I think that becomes the issue.
Thank you. Mr. Cochran?
I also appreciate the changes in the language that were presented by Ms. Morrison-Fair and Ms. Middleton. I guess my concern, though, is due to the need at this point, I mean, we're already in November, and due to the need to be planning for the next school year and what we're going to be doing at Blythe Academy, it just seems to me, and also, of course, the fact that we would need to do, if we're having trouble right now, if we don't put forth an all-out effort, which we wouldn't be doing if we vote to basically stop the program, it seems to be unlikely that when we revisit it, there would be that much to revisit unless we're making an all-out effort to try and recruit people. So it just seems to me, basically, I suspect that even though I appreciate the language changes, I suspect that a yes vote would effectively eliminate the program both now and also into the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I've just got some comments, and then I'm going to agree with Mr. Cochran. You know, I've listened to everyone, and the word virtual makes me cringe. I don't know if any of you picked up on that, but when you're talking about teaching small children virtually, well, in my opinion, I think we learned a lesson during COVID, and I would be totally against that. I'm in favor of rejuvenating and really making this French immersion program work. I love highlighting our district with the many programs we offer that no one else really does in our state, and we're always keeping the best interests of all of our students and their success. I know, being Greek, learning Greek at a young age will stay with you for years. It's easier to learn a language when you're young than if I have a friend and I take her to Greece and I'm trying to teach her these words. She goes, just speak Greek for us. Because it's easy. So to really, I just feel like in this state, in Greenville County, the largest district, how can we not find some qualified French teachers? I find it also appalling that a teacher would call students stupid and nothing happened. That just is unacceptable at any school. And if that did happen, I know, Dr. Royster, you're gonna check on that for us. I've listened to everyone present. I've listened to parents speak. I know that they want to speak again and fill us in on other information, but I'm sure we're going to get that other information once we get home. It'll be on our computers with emails. But with that being said, I too agree with Jeff. If we vote for this now, then we're going to ease back, and we're just going to go through this. We're going to go through this phase out. Whereas if we say no, in good faith, I cannot vote for that because I want this to happen. And I was looking at the numbers with the Spanish classes, and I know that we only have so many. Where was that? Let me get it up here. I think, Linda, you probably saw me looking at it.
On the screen.
You got it on the screen. You saw me working on these numbers. If you look, yes, there are five classes of K5, and there are 112 students. So that gives you roughly about, 21 and a half or whatever. Then you go down and it decreases as well. And then you end up with 3 classes by the 5th grade. And you've got 20 students, or 20 and a 4th, or 20 and a 3rd students. Whereas you've got in the French immersion, you started out with 22. Okay, well, that's a class, just like K5 with the Spanish. Then you go to 19. Well, we've got 19 in the other 1st grade. When you do those classes out, you've got 8 classes. You've got about 18, 19. Then you go to second grade. We've got one class, we got 17 students. You go and you look, you've got about 19 in that second grade in one of those classes. Third grade, we've got 20 students. They have less than 20 students in one of those classes, Fourth grade, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm a numbers person. I love math. My dad taught me math, made me play gin rummy and taught me how to count my points. Add, subtract, divide, and multiply. And what I'm seeing is, yes, you have teachers for all of these. I do not want to do away with this French immersion. I think this is a highlight in our district. You do away with this, your feeder programs into Greenville Middle, however less the students are, however more the students are, you're not going to have it. It too will dissolve. I want to give it the best shot. I mean, we're doing this Elevate program. We're paying teachers additional funds. Let's make this work. Let's get these numbers up. I'm for this. I will vote this down, and I will vote just like Jeff said. I want to give this program a chance. So with that being said, I think there is no more discussion. And there's a motion on the floor. Nancy, can you put it up there for us? Or can
you read my handwriting?
I'm sorry. All right. We've had so many amendments to our original. I'm gonna- Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Can this vote be by roll call?
Yes, it can. So Gail, there's a All right, so the motion on the floor is to phase out the French immersion program as part of the magnet program at Blythe Academy as presented to be revisited if circumstances warrant. All those, roll call.
Ms. Brett?
No.
Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Cochran?
No.
Ms. Doolin? Ms. Goodwin Caldwell? Ms. Levinas Wells?
No.
Ms. Middleton?
No.
Morrison Fair?
Yes.
Mosley? Dr. Presley?
No.
Dr. Stiles? 9-3.
9-3. The motion fails. And so now I will turn this back over to Dr. Stiles.
Thank you, Ms. Leventis Wells, and thank you for chairing this section today. Our fourth item of business is administration. Ms. Doolin will serve as the chair of the administration section. Ms. Doolin, I'm going to turn this section over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you. Our next order of business is item 4.01, resolution regarding school resource officers and bus drivers as essential employees. This comes to us from the Advocacy Committee, and Mr. Sailors isn't here to speak to it, but maybe Dr. Royster, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
Simply to reinforce the spirit and the idea behind this. We struggle to find bus drivers. The law enforcement agencies that serve our schools struggle to find sufficient numbers of law enforcement officers. This would allow for both of these groups of employees, if the legislature changes the law, to be able to retire and immediately return to work without suffering any penalty or any earnings cap. It also further would, as just a side note to make sure we all understand it, once these people retire and come back to work, they would still be required to contribute to the retirement system to which they belong. For law enforcement, that's the police officers' retirement system. For bus drivers, it's the South Carolina State Employees Retirement System. And we would contribute on their behalf, the bus drivers and their agency on their behalf, to the retirement system, for which they would draw no additional benefit. So it helps to contribute to the healthiness of the retirement system funding. It gives us a greater pool of candidates for these positions and helps us at a time when we need additional help to continue to maintain the level of staffing that we wish to have for bus drivers, and to help us to seek out the additional grants for school resource officers that are available by the state, but that we are pursuing more slowly than we would like, simply because there is a shortage of law enforcement officers as well. Hopefully that adequately summarizes for Mr. Sailors and for the Advocacy Committee.
Thank you. I think before we have any discussion, someone needs to make a motion.
To approve the resolution regarding school resource officers and bus drivers as essential employees as presented.
Right, Dr. Presley?
No discussion. I think Superintendent Royster handled, Mr. Sailors had given me something, but I think we've covered the.
Okay, does anyone else have anything they would like to say or ask? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. Well, let's go for it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, 4.02 is the annual comprehensive financial report. I think Ms. Stack might be giving this to us. Dr. Royster, did you?
Yes, Ms. Stack will present the annual comprehensive financial report, and where's David? David's here from an external auditor. There he is. Stack?
Thank you, Dr. Royster. We have completed the FY 2023 annual audit, and Mr. David Phillips from Green Finney Colley is here to present to you their report. Thank you.
Great. I don't think I'm going to be near as good as what y'all just went through, but I will try to go quicker. And again, what we're going to try to do is just hit the highlights regarding the fiscal year 23 audit. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to interject, or if you want to wait to the end, that is fine as well. We'd like to remind everybody that these are the district's financial statements, and that our responsibility, of course, is to issue an an opinion. We look at things from a materiality perspective. I know some of you, your materiality is really low, but generally that's about 1 to 2% of total assets or total revenue, whichever is higher. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, we have issued an unmodified, which is kind of a strange term, but that's a clean opinion. You wonder why they couldn't just use that term. The old days, they used the term unqualified, and they wanted to make it clearer for everybody, and so now they call it unmodified. But if we modified our report, we would say everything looks good except for this. So you want an unmodified, that means we're not aware of anything being materially misstated there. All right, well, let's look at some of your key measurements. Your total fund balance decreased $2.9 million, but we're going to touch on that in a second, so don't be alarmed by that. You do have a component of fund balance called non-spendable, which is about $5 million. You have some committed fund balance of about $1.2 million. And then remember, in your fiscal year 24 budget, you appropriated some fund balance to balance that budget for 24. So then we go to the next slide. We look at your unassigned category. Unassigned means there's no constraints. It's available at your discretion if you want to choose to use it for a particular purpose. That balance is about $209.1 million, which is about 28% of your 2023 actual expenditures and about 24% of your budgeted expenditures for the year that we're in right now. The GFOA, I know it's a strange term, excuse me, that stands for the Government Finance Officers Association. They're kind of like the Bible of governments. They recommend a minimum of 2 months. Your board policy recommends 1 month, and so you can see that number would be about $72 million, and you're in good stead as it relates to your limit there. All right, so why do you want to have a strong fund balance? Remember, some of your revenues, especially property taxes, they kind of come in all at one time. Those property tax bills go out in October for real property. You pay it if you want the tax deduction before December 31st, or you wait until January and February to pay it. But most of that real property taxes is all collected in November, December, January, February. And then you really don't collect a lot of real property taxes after that. Remember, it helps you if there's emergencies or unanticipated expenditures that come up. It gives you flexibility to deal with needs within the district. It gives you a better interest rate. So if you have to issue debt and they see you have a good track record, they're going to give you a better interest rate than somebody that's up and down and all around. And as you can see there, your ratings are some of the highest that you can have. And again, it just helps you with potential shortfalls, changes in funding formulas, and so forth. All right, well, let's briefly look at your revenues. They were $767.2 million. We kind of break it out into the biggest components, property taxes, as you see there, state revenues, and the other category. This was an increase of about 7% over the prior year. Your property tax revenues were up. You had a little bit of a millage increase, but remember too, assessed values continue to grow. State revenues were up. One of the things that we're seeing across the state is investment earnings. Look how much was generated in investment earnings, $10.3 million. And that's because rates now are in the low 5s, and back a year ago, they were below 1. And so you're starting to see you earn the earning power of some of the cash that's being invested. As it relates to your budget, you came in about 6% over budget on revenues. Again, a lot of that is in property taxes of about 20.2, and part of that's just being conservative. Your staff doesn't take what you got last year and multiply it by 5% and assume that's what you're going to get. They're pretty conservative. Hey, we're going to take what we had last year and be careful and discount that a little bit just in case there's a pullback in the economy. Also, you know, your investment earnings, that wasn't something everybody was expecting, that rates were going to go up like they have, and that's really garnered a pretty big increase for you in your investment earnings. And then, of course, state revenues, we're all dealing with the new funding formula, and, you know, and so part of that is being conservative there, not sure how all that's going to shake out there. All right, well, let's look at your general fund expenditures. They were 748.3. The real key here, is you're up about 69 million over the prior year, but you're a people business. It's salaries and benefits. Remember the step increases and the cost of living adjustments that you give people. That's the driver here. Remember also that retirement benefits, the rate went up another 1% there. It's going up 1% more in fiscal year 24 as they're trying to shore up the state retirement plan. But because you ended up having a strong year, I wanted to highlight the very last bullet point. If you remember, y'all transferred a good bit of funds into the Capital Projects Fund to deal with ongoing projects. And you did that last year too, and you may not always be able to do that, but that was something that you were able to go ahead and work towards in addressing some of these projects without maybe not having to issue any more debt. All right, well, let's look at some of your other funds. The Special Revenue Fund, remember, it's primarily federal and state money that are specified for certain special education programs. Some of those are like Title I, IDEA. You're having a lot of ESSER funds, COVID monies. But you had total revenues there of about $158.8 million. And we kind of list some of the big areas of where you've expended those funds. $25 million in Title I. The big one that won't last forever is the ESSER that you see there of 65.6, as it will begin to wind down in fiscal year 24. You do have a fund balance of about $16.2 million related to your student/pupil activity funds that's reflected within the big special revenue fund. The Education Improvement Act Fund is another state revenue source related to certain education programs. You had there about $74.7 million of revenue. Some of that is because of the new funding formula, state aid to classrooms, that went into there, where in the past that was not there. Next slide, we're going to look briefly at your debt service fund. You have about $4.2 million in fund balance. Remember, those monies are set aside for debt service, so they can't be used for other purposes. Your capital projects fund, you have about $340 million in fund balance. That's where that big transfer came. It went into this capital projects fund to be able to be used on your capital improvement plan there. Your food service fund had a fund balance of about $34.7 million, an increase of about $3.9 million over the prior year. All right, well, let's briefly look at your capital assets. That's your property, plant, and equipment. That's all the school buildings, all your equipment and everything. But remember, once we capitalize it, we begin to depreciate it over its estimated useful life. So again, if you, for example, had bought, say a bus, and you thought it had a 10-year life, and let's say it was $1 million, just hypothetically, we're going to depreciate it $100,000 a year, so that at the end of the 10 years, that bus is kind of used up. But you had a total capital assets of about $1.2 billion. That's the big B there. It actually decreased slightly because you had more depreciation than you had additions this year. So you had additions of about $49.5 million, and we kind of list there what some of those were. Then, of course, the depreciation expense of $52.6 and some net disposals. Remember, at June 30th of 23, you had a number of construction projects still ongoing, and we list some of those with the Roper Mountain CTE Innovation Center construction, HVAC and weight room upgrades, and so forth. All right, well, let's look at your debt. Your long-term debt was about $480 million. It decreased 67.3. You didn't really issue any more long-term. You just kind of made your regularly scheduled principal payments. And so you're whittling down the debt over time. Your fiscal year 24 estimated debt payments that the year that we're in right now is about $79.4 million. All right, wanted to briefly mention the pension, the state retirement plans that pretty much all local governments participate in. The real takeaway here is that liability, the GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they took the position back in 2015 that if you participate in a state plan, it's a cost sharing plan, and if that plan is over or underfunded, you need to record your proportionate piece of that asset or liability on your government-wide statements, not on your general fund, but on the government-wide statements. Well, your allocation right now is about $1 billion. It was 860 in the prior year. The real takeaway here is not that they're going to ask you for a check for $1 billion, but the way that they're going to shore up that liability is the second to last bullet point, where you can see that they're raising those rates that I mentioned earlier. They've been going 1% for the last 5 years with a pause in the middle of COVID. Fiscal year 24 is the last scheduled 1% rate increase. And so what you got to think about is every year your finance and management staff are taking all your salaries and having to add another 1%, which is a lot of money when you look at the size of salaries that you have. There's a lot of note disclosure in the financials. So if you ever kind of want to read up about the plan, what they're investing in, what does it take to retire in the plan? It's in the notes. There's about 6 to 8 pages there. You also participate in a retiree health insurance plan. And that, again, is for your retirees. When we were talking about the pension plan, it's about 60% funded. Unfortunately, this retiree health insurance plan, if you look down third to the last bullet point, it's only about 10% funded. And so your liability right now is estimated to be about $800 million, It decreased because they increased the interest rate, and that made the liability go down. The real takeaway is the second last bullet point. You see the rate right now is 6.25. I just don't see that rate staying that low for much longer. I think as soon as that pension last 1% rate increase ends, I think you're going to start seeing them chip away at raising the rate for retirees so that they can start getting the pension balance better funded. The OPEB balance better funded there. All right, really don't have any significant changes in auditing standards that we see coming. There is one accounting change that will kick in next year. It used to be the GASB, which again is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They used to take the position that if you set a capitalization threshold, you could follow it and you're good as gold. So if most people set 5,000 as their capitalization threshold. But the question started coming up to the GASB, well, what if I buy 1,000 computers and they're all each $1,000? That's pretty significant. Should we capitalize those, even though individually they're all under $5,000? Well, the GASB took a different position now, and they're saying if something's significant, if you buy a lot of it, you need to capitalize it. So your staff is looking at creating a group purchase threshold. So it's like the 5,000, but it will be for a group, and that we'll use this threshold. And if we buy a lot of something, we're going to have to capitalize it and begin to depreciate it starting next year. So just to kind of let you know that that's coming. All right, we also have to look at your federal audit programs this year. We looked at the Child Nutrition Cluster Program and the ESSER program. We did come across one small issue that we want to make you aware of that staff's already looked at. One of the point of sale on your meals programs was not transferring all the data all the time to your accounting software. It would be right on 95% of them, but a couple of them, they'd be off a few meals. So your staff is looking at that, but it ended up being like an unbelievably small percentage. Look, 0.0008. I think it was like 31 meals out of 3 million. So just to kind of give you a little context, to me, it's not a big issue, but we just have to make you aware of that because we looked at that in our program audit. As it relates to the management letter, you probably received a separate letter. And if, what we're supposed to do in this letter, if we had difficulties with the finance staff, we had difficulties with management, we would have to note that in this letter. Or if we thought something should have been booked and you didn't want to book it, we'd have to make you aware of that. We had none of those. We did mention in here that we looked at a new GASB this year. It was dealing with subscription-based information technology arrangements. And if you had significant ones of those, we had to begin to capitalize and depreciate those in fiscal year 23, but you didn't have enough significant ones where we needed to do that. The last thing we always want to remind you, and we actually included as a recommendation or just a comment in our management letter, is that, there's always just the risk with pupil and student activities. I just want you to always be aware, there's only so much you can do to mitigate that risk without hiring multiple bookkeepers. And so there's a certain amount you just have to be willing to live with because of the cost-benefit factors there. Again, summary, unmodified. That's a good term. Very strong financial condition. The staff here are great to work with. And again, just expect insurance rates to keep rising. They've got to fix the state program, the plan. Questions? I know I'll go quick, but most people like me going quick.
Are there any questions? Right. Well, thank you for that presentation. Thank you for your work again this year. We'll see you next year. Okay, the next item is 4.03. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Let's back up to 4.02. I need a maker of a motion. Yes, Ms. Bush.
To accept the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report as presented.
All right, is there any discussion on that? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item 4.03, without objection, we could move this to December's CAL because it might be lengthy. I don't hear any objections. Let's move it to the next meeting. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, great. That concludes the administration section. Dr. Stiles.
Thank you so much, Ms. Doolin. Before we move on to our next item of business, I just wanted to bring the board's attention to one matter. When Mrs. Fortner provided us with the count, she said 9-3. In reality, it's 8-3. And so, of course, we all called out our vote, and so that is just a matter of correction that I want everybody to be aware of, and so that can be reflected in our minutes today. So, now moving right along to our fifth item of business, which is building and grounds. Ms. Middleton, you will serve as the chair of the building and grounds section, and I'm going to turn it over to you at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First matter of business is item 5.01, Facilities Project Report. This item is for information only. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak on this matter?
We don't have any particular item in there to bring to the attention of the board, but Colonel Carlin or I, either one, will be glad to try to answer any question that you might have.
Okay, hearing no, oh, sorry, Ms. Bush.
Yes. I'm not sure about building and grounds, but I had some concerns that were brought to me by some Travelers Rest parents about some items that had been, it was the public address system at the football field and something else. It was copied, I think it was copied to the superintendent, and I spoke with Nancy about it, and she said it was being investigated, and I just want to make sure that it's something about the sound system, whatever it was that was ordered, was that it was a delay in shipping, or it was still on a boat or something that was relayed to me. And I know that at one point we had some of that was just delays in shipping because of but you know, if it's still in transition, can we make some kind of alternate choices or
My understanding, Ms. Bush, if I followed correctly, the question that was asked, I don't know about another issue, but the issue about the sound system in the stadium, there was an issue there. They ordered the part to replace the damaged part or the broken part or malfunctioning part. We have had tremendous issues with supply chain and PA system replacements. In fact, we had, Dr. Ward was in here, I guess he stepped out. Philip, we had 4 or 5 stadium PA replacements that were repeatedly delayed because we couldn't get the systems.
Yes, sir.
In this particular case, it was a component to be replaced in a system. They did let the school know that they were not able to get that component in a timely manner. It has been ordered. I do not think it's yet been received, but they brought a portable system to the school, to the stadium, to be used in the interim, along with the note that they could not leave that system outside because it was not designed for that purpose. So as far as I know, that was provided, and that's what they utilized. And I don't know how close they are on the replacement, but it was only, from what I know, it was only the stadium sound system, so there should be no immediate call for using that between now and when they start, I would imagine, maybe track season, track practice, which would start end of February.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. If there's more information about that, we'll send it to you.
It was a school lift also that had been broken. Something that they used to go up in the gym and change.
Yeah, we provide a lift at every high school.
Okay.
Because of needing to change lights at higher elevations. Colonel Carr, do you know anything about that one? I know the other one's under security because it's PA system, and that goes with security and audio visual.
Yes, sir.
Travis's area.
And you're correct. We do have one of those at every high school. The lift at TR, as I understand it, was taken out of service at some point in the past. I believe there was a miscommunication between the school and my department as to the fact that it was taken out of service. But I believe we delivered a temporary replacement lift to the school yesterday so that they could continue to do what they need to do. And we're in the process of using one of our vendors to have the one there repaired.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yes. Mr. Carlin, when will the Carolina High School and Greenville High School weight rooms be completed? I know it says fall 2023.
Yes, ma'am. The weight room at Carolina High School, we actually had our inspection with Office of School Facilities. It was approved. We are completing some punch list items to finalize that one. I'm very hopeful that we will have the ability to provide the school access either before the end of this month or the beginning of December. And it should be similar, but probably a little bit longer for Greenville High multipurpose gym, probably middle to the latter part of December.
Okay, when you put complete on here, does that mean that the equipment for those weight rooms are also included in this complete?
Ma'am,
when do they get the equipment for these weight rooms?
That's the structure that I'm calling complete.
That'd be Coach Nance, their weight room equipment.
Yes, sir. They've already ordered their weight room equipment. It's in storage, waiting to be delivered once they get access. Once they have ability to access the building, the equipment will be brought, installed.
So all of the others that are completed, they have their weight room equipment?
Ma'am.
Because I heard from one school that they didn't have theirs, and it's on here that they were completed in 2022, but I'll talk with you about that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, our second matter of business is 5.02, City of Greer recreational trail easement at Greer High School. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. This is very similar in concept to the two that you approved last month. You approved one at Bryson Elementary and Fountain Inn High School, which were also similar to ones previously approved in the district to allow trail access. You see the documents attached, and you should also have a plat showing the location of the requested easement. And as with the other easements, the requesting entity is required to provide fencing along that easement. And I believe in this case, to connect back to existing fencing on that property. All right, Colonel Carlin, at Greer High.
That is correct. The fence will terminate with the fence that runs around the track. So we've got complete separation between the public and the school operations.
And I believe it's basically a right-of-way acquisition that runs parallel to the property line. If you're on the road in front of the school, Gap Creek Road, it would be the subdivision. If you're moving from Country Club Road to Gap Creek Road, it'd be the subdivision there on the left, our common property boundary with that subdivision.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Royster. We have a recommended motion from the administration. Ms. Doolan, would you like to make the motion?
Sure, I motion to approve the City of Greer's easement request at Greer High School.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, the motion, all in favor? The motion carries. Oh, are there any no votes? Oh, sorry. Are there any no votes? Hearing none, then the motion carries. Okay. Third matter of business is 5.03, naming of the Fine Arts Center Jazz Studio. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. You have a request in front of you coming from the administration with a recommendation to approve the naming of the Fine Arts Center Jazz Studio in honor of Steve Watson. Steve is a very accomplished teacher and musician who started the Fine Arts Center Jazz Studies program in 1990. He has a local, regional, statewide, and national reputation in his craft. He is absolutely outstanding, has done a great job. In fact, we have frequently called upon him and his musicians to provide music here for this body, to provide entertainment at various conferences and conventions, both those hosted here in Greenville and meetings of your state organization hosted at Hilton Head. He has always responded and provided exemplary musicians that showcase the talent of the students that we have in Greenville County. And though he is humble enough not to say it himself, that showcase his great ability as a teacher and director. So we certainly recommend to you the naming of the Jazz Studies, the naming of the Fine Arts Center Jazz Studies Studio in honor of Steve Watson.
I'll motion to approve the naming of the Fine Arts Center Jazz Studio in honor of Sir Steve Watson.
Any questions? Yes.
Doug, is there a policy on naming within the district? Because I thought that they don't name until a person is actually gone from the school district.
The change in the policy, and Doug can look it up, allows that to be done when they have announced to us and we have accepted their retirement for that year.
It's just announcement, not actually gone.
That's correct. There's a window of time. I can pull that up, but Dr. Royster is correct.
If you could send that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. This concludes the Building and Grounds section. Before I turn the meeting back to Madam Chair, I would like to take this opportunity to mention the upcoming dedication of the Alumni Room at Greer High School for our former trustee in Area 18, Pat Suddeth. As many of you know, he was not only the former board trustee for many, many years, but he has been a teacher at Greer High School, the athletic director, and the principal. And also, he served our country in the U.S. Marines. So very proud of Mr. Suddeth. It's a privilege for me to take this time to just recognize him, and hopefully everyone will be at the ceremony for the naming of the Alumni Room. And that will be on Monday, November 27th at 6 p.m. at Greer High School. At this time, then I'll turn the meeting back over to Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton, and thank you for chairing this section. And also just a word about Pat Suddeth. Certainly, we appreciate you for sharing that and hope to be there. He certainly deserves this recognition. This concludes our committee of the whole agenda today, and I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Mrs. Mosley has motioned, seconded by Ms. Doolin to adjourn our meeting. Oh, it was Ms. Brett? Okay, I'm sorry. It was motioned by Ms. Brett, seconded by Ms. Doolin to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our committee of the whole meeting is adjourned at 11:45. But I do want to remind everyone that following lunch, we will have our board workshop on strategic planning. So you're dismissed for lunch. Thank you.